everyone, and welcome to Another Bite, where we rewatch the most innovative and intriguing pitches from Shark Tank. I'm Jorie, and I'm joined by Jon.
Hello.
Today, we've got a device that is, shall we say, shocking, all after this brief sponsored break. Everybody loves winning more than losing. It's science, trust me. That's why we're officially naming 2024 the Year of the Win. And Sales Hub from HubSpot is here for all the W's. This all-on-one platform has all the right tools and insights to power the right conversations. Also, you can win more deals, win more revenue, and win more customers for life. Ugh, I love the sound of winning. Sales Hub is really a dream come true for sellers. Visit HubSpot.com/sales to stop dreaming and start selling with Sales Hub. So today's product is an oldie but goldie that comes to us from season 1, episode 1. Ionic ear comes from Darren Johnson and is delivered in an entirely monotonous and expressionless way. Ionic ear is a surgically implanted Bluetooth device, which is really solving for the problem of sweaty ears and answering the phone too quickly. He proceeds to demonstrate what it means to get this implanted into your ear on a blue man and is asking for an initial $1 million for a 15% stake, which is about a $6.6 million valuation back in 2009. Yeah, that's when the first season aired. So just getting right into this, what do we think about Ionic ear? I'm not doing it.
In 2009, there's no way I'm doing it. That's partially because at the time, of course, for all of us who remember back then, it was a status symbol to have a Bluetooth headset. In the world of business status, it kind of started with like, oh, I had a laptop and it was like this huge thing. And then you got a BlackBerry, and embarrassingly, early in my career, I wore a BlackBerry on my belt as like a sign.
Nice.
I had a holster. How am I going to put that thing in my pocket? It was like bam. It had a whole keyboard. My God, like what was I going to do with it?
A whole computer.
And I had that. And then I got myself the Bluetooth headset so that I could walk around and just look effing lame, even though I didn't think so at the time. And so the problem is back then, that's what he was up against. He was up against the cool thing, and that's never a recipe for success. Fast forward, I think I'd consider getting it in bed. I think I'd consider putting it in my head.
A whole implant in your ear?
I want the chip. I want it all.
Apple Pay.
Yeah. What I would like is if he could add some features to it such that it could also record every single thing that happens in my life so that I could remember all the details of all the great conversations I have.
Self-awareness. There's plugged in, and then there's like literally plugged into this needle that is used to charge this device. There are two different ways of like can't tear yourself away from the device and can't tear the device like out of your physical body.
Yeah. I'm not that afraid of having a device implanted into my skull. That doesn't freak me out. Sticking a needle in my ear to charge it every night, that kind of does freak me out. That's like Clockwork Orange, you know? I just can't imagine actually like laying down into bed and being like, okay, I'm just going to like charge this thing like right on into the eye. But I'm not afraid of the device. And I think if there's like a mute setting, like that's a solvable problem, the disconnect thing. You can just say, okay, cool. I'm going to mute my device for, you know, an hour, whatever. I think the error of the episode was just them not actually understanding if there was any traction in the business. Like the hole in my life that now exists because I don't know what happened to this thing and how much business he was actually doing when he got onto Shark Tank.
We'll get to it.
I can't wait to hear what happened because like he might have been doing incredible. Who knows how many people had the chip installed already? Like, and they didn't even hear him out. And I think, you know, as viewers, I think we would have really gotten a lot out of that and it would have been fun to see.
Yeah, I think the biggest fail of the episode for me, and something that I think the sharks started to key in on, is like none of these had ever been implanted, right? There was like no medical doctors that were saying, oh, you know, it's safe.
Just think, how great would it be if it also worked a little bit like an Alexa or a Google Home where you could like make your shopping list. I think of things I need to buy all the time and I don't want to have to pull out my phone. What if I could just like, you know, speak it to my ear and it would work? Like the extensions that are possible with this thing are pretty endless, I think.
Again, we're back in 2009. That's like before a lot of these innovations like Alexa were even in our homes. So while technology today is like, oh, maybe I could like think about it, consider it. 2009, definitely not.
Yeah.
A man ahead of his time.
I'm kind of interested in that health tracking data, whatever. Like I got to wear like a bracelet. What if I just had it in my head? How great.
I think you bring up a great point about market acceptance. And I think that was like his big justification to the sharks was like, there's been crazy ideas before, but then as soon as like it kind of gains traction in the market, there's the opportunity to really sell. But none of the sharks took the bait on this one, right? Like it was very clearly like boom, 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 out, out, out. The sharks were definitely not interested in investing in this product as of this episode. And to sort of answer the question of, is this a company still? Thankfully, it's not a company. Ionic Ears does not exist today. And there's actually like no real evidence that it ever really made it. While the idea may have had some credibility on like, yeah, technology that's completely handless, you know, I think that the issue here is that it had never been performed before. It was all theory on like, yep, it just goes in your skull and it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Darren doesn't appear to have done any surgeries like this. So he has sold to approximately 0 people, which not to get conspiratorial, but it's like, was this like literally a plant?
I don't know. The slides look legit. And as someone who works in corporate America, I will say that was a high for me is when he said, well, let me point you to slide number 2. And I was like, excellent. That lured me into like credibility. I was like, slides, monotone. I was like, superb. This must be a brilliant idea.
Did he implant it himself? An update of sorts on the 100th episode is that Barbara and Damon called this like the craziest concept they had ever heard of. And I think when I actually initially watched this clip, it was listed as like Shark Tank's worst pitch. So
can I just ask, so you can now start your car, for instance, without like a key that you stick in a keyhole. Would you get an implanted like car key? Would you ever consider any implants? House key? Would you get like a bio tracker or no implants at all?
I feel like when it comes to body modification, I'm not so open to it. If it's an app on my phone, like I think it's super helpful to be able to unlock your door with your phone, right? Or like to turn on your lights, right? But I don't need to like press my wrist to do that, you know, like I'm good.
See, whereas I kind of want to like throw my hands at my door and just have it like open,
Boom.
You know? But I like a show.
That's fair. So there's clearly some mixed demographics for Ionic Ear.
It sounds like it's a total addressable market of Jon.
Just Jon.
So I'm going to reach out to this guy, see if he's got any lying around and see if I can get my doctor to do it.
So at least for the time being, maybe Jon will be the first customer for Darren. But Darren is keeping scalpels away from our temples for now. Production for today's episode was brought to you by Arie Desormeaux. Editing comes from Robert Hartwig and support from Alfred Schulz. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or wherever you subscribe to the greatest podcasts ever. That does it for me. See you next week in the tank for another bite. Everyone is looking for help in sales, yet so few people are willing to give it. That's why I want to tell you about the podcast Surf in Sales, brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. Hosts Richard Harris and Scott Leese have teamed up to bring their best advice for sales reps and leaders so sales professionals can be the best at their craft. Each episode is a hilariously honest, irreverent, and insightful conversation about what they see salespeople doing right and what they see them doing wrong. And yeah, there will be the occasional surf story as well. So if you hate buzzwords, but you love 100% transparency, you'll love Surf in Sales. Listen to Surf in Sales wherever you get your podcasts.